All right, it's the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Bruen, and we have a guest this week, very special guest, Kidd USA Jay Jaillet, of course, a staple here in the New England scene. Jay, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, how you doing, Joe? Good to see you.
Good, man. And you?
I'm doing very well, very blessed.
Awesome. It's good to have you here, and we're going to kind of take a deep dive into your career and everything beyond. So looking forward to this. Growing up as a kid, when did you first discover pro wrestling, first and foremost?
That would have been when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. My grandmother lived next door, so I'd be over there every Saturday morning. So Saturday mornings is where it all started. And I think my earliest memory is probably WrestleMania 3, because I remember I knew they were wrestling, and I couldn't get the pay-per-view, and I couldn't stay up that late. And I remember I read the results in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette the next day. So my grandmother is definitely one that got me into it.
Nice. Who were some of your favorites growing up?
Well, Hogan. Hulk Hogan was the first one. The first wrestling stuff I ever got was the Hulk Hogan workout set, where you had the headband, the T-shirt, the little hand grip, and I think it was a poster. So that was the first thing I ever got in regards to wrestling. So Hogan was probably the guy, and then obviously Ultimate Warrior. He was the next one that came in, and then Shawn Michaels is when I started really thinking that I could do wrestling, because I was a mark back then, thought it was all a shoot, and Shawn was one of the smaller guys doing all that cool stuff. So that's what really made me think I could really get into it. So those three would be the top ones for me.
And do you remember the first time you attended a show live and in person as a fan?
Oh, I do. It was a house show, WWF. I went with my friend Seth, and I remember the first match I ever saw was Duke the Dorchester. He was he was against, I think, Iron Mike Sharp. And I remember the main event was it was Ken Patera against somebody. That was maybe Dino Bravo. So yeah, Worcester Centrum. And it was funny because Worcester Centrum was the first place I attended it, but I also, I was able to wrestle there years later too. So that was really cool.
And how did that transpire? At what moment were you like, you know what, this is something I want to personally do?
Yeah, I think what it was, I started in high school. I started thinking that I wanted to go to wrestling school instead of college. And I had plans the whole time to go to the Dungeon in Canada. That was my plan, my whole high school years, until I found out in my junior year that Kowalski had a school in Malden. And I'll never forget, I had a piece of crap Buick car, and I ended up driving to the school that day. I had no money at all or anything. I remember I walked into Kowalski's, and Kowalski was sitting down. Dan was there, Dan Freight Train. Bulldozer was there. Tony Roy was there. A couple other guys that I can't remember their names right now. But that was the first time I went in. I talked to Walter for a couple minutes, and he pretty much told me when I had money to come back. And then he told me how much it was. Again, I had no money. I was a 16-year-old kid dreaming, so I didn't really pay much mind to it. And then I started doing the bodybuilding, and I was training for the Junior Olympics at a College Square gym. And I'll never forget, that's when I met Bert Centeno. And Bert walked in the gym to work out, and he was doing all the squash matches every weekend. So I was like struck, like he was a superstar to me back then, because he was the first person I ever saw on TV. And I started talking to him. He told me he went to Kowalski's, and then Bert is the I don't know what you're gonna say. At first, he told me we were gonna go to wrestling school, and our first match was at Elm Park in Worcester on the lawn. I was never introduced to a wrestling ring until the first time I wrestled. Imagine that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty wild. Yeah.
What are
All
some
about
of your
practice.
other memories of that school?
Which one? The one I went to, Walters.
Walter School.
Walters, I went in there, and I remember that's when I found out it was all work. I was really disappointed, actually. I
Wow.
remember I did leave there disappointed because I saw them working with each other, and I was kind of confused on what was going on, and then I kind of really lost you know I lost all my aspirations to do it for a short period of time because it was a work. And I really thought that, if you did this and this and you could really become a champion. So when I found out it was a work, I was a little disappointed. But once I saw how it worked out and then I saw Bert and Bert told me, he would train me, that's when I decided I was actually going to go for it.
So tell us a little bit more about that training, your school, Bert Centeno. Give us all your memories about Bert, maybe some stories over the years of
Oh
Bert.
yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
wrestled as Bert, wrestled as El Mascarado. He's done it all.
Yeah, Bert is the main reason why I wrestled. Forever grateful for him for that. Uh yeah, he told me and my friend Paul at the time, Paul Benenda, who I ended up working my first few matches with. He played some German character, but he didn't last very long. Uh, he's the first kid I started training with, and then I think about a year later, Donnie Rotten came into the picture, and Donnie brought the Widowmaker. So it was pretty much just us four, and we wrestled in the back of College Square Gym in an empty room, and we brought like 15 carpets in, and we just stacked the carpets up, and literally that's how we learned, right on those carpets in the back. So 3 times a week for 2 or 3 hours, we'd be in that room just you know it wasn't nice. It was all like trash and everything. But yeah, I learned all the basics and everything in there. I learned drop kicks, hip tosses, back drops, and then all that stuff really hurt. So that was pretty much my training for about 4 months. And then I was going with Bert to all the WWF shows. Back then, they used to let Bert bring us back. Tony Greer would take care of me for the night and introduce me to everybody. And then after that, I went to a show with Bert for Tony Rumble. I think it was in Chelsea, Mass. Uh, and that's where I wrestled Bert for the first time, 1-on-1. That was my first match against Bert, and that was in a sold out, like auditorium. It was awesome. Vic Steamboat was the main event. So yeah, that was the beginning of it.
And what was that like for you? Bert Centeno, somebody that you looked up to, and you finally get to have a one-on-one out in public with him. Tell us, kind of take us back to that night.
Yeah, well, I was petrified. I wasn't even supposed to wrestle. I was just there, and I think remember what was his name, the Pink Assassin.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he got injured, so he couldn't wrestle Bert that night. So Tony's like, Bert's like, I got my student with me, so I literally had nothing. So Bert got me. I wore somebody's ridiculous yellow pants with red lightning bolts on them. I remember, and I wore a pair of Bert's boots, and I looked like a ding dong. And yeah, I was really scared. We were the first match, and again, it was probably 400 or 500 people, and I knew nothing. Bert just said, "Listen to me," and I said, "Okay." He goes, "Listen, anything you do at school, just do in the ring." And man, he made me look like $1 million that night. So if it wasn't for him making me look the way he did that night, I don't think Tony Rumble would have ever given me the chance that he did. So yeah, it's funny. I can actually remember that night very vaguely. I remember I was throwing up before the match, and I kept asking Bert, "I'm like, is this supposed to be happening?" He's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. You're gonna be fine." But yeah, man, that was a scary night.
And Tony Rumble, the Boston Bad Boy, was this the CWA?
Yes, it was. Yep, and that's when
Awesome.
they were really big then. They had everybody coming in. Dan Severin, the NWA champ from China, Japan, wherever he was there. It was a lot of big names.
And what was your experience like with Tony over the years?
It was really good. It was really good. He actually gave me my ring name because, I was just Jay Gillette. And that night, I remember I went up to Tony. Tony Atlas is in the locker room. It was me, Tony Atlas, and Tony Rumble. And I had brought my gold medals that I won at the Junior Olympics with me in my bag because Bert told me to always have a bag.
Yep.
So Tony Atlas was sitting there, and we were all just talking. Tony was asking me about my background. I told him about bodybuilding, and then I showed him my medals. And then I remember Tony Rumble looked at Tony Atlas. He goes, "Listen, he's a kid. And he's from the USA. We're just going to call him Kidd USA." And he asked Tony if he had a problem with that, and Tony said no. And that's where I was born that night.
Wow. So there's the gimmick. It starts Kidd USA, Jay Gillette. when it comes to the tights, obviously you said you had to wear, somebody else's random tights
Yeah.
first time around, but when it
Yeah.
came to actually kind of creating your own tights, kind of give us that process. Where did you get the tights from? Where did you purchase them? The whole process. How did you design them?
Yeah. So Bert had given me the lady's name. It was K&H Wrestling Gear. I'm not sure if that's still around anymore, but yeah, I used to call. She used to send us like order forms, and we would pick out all the stuff that we want and all the letters like that. And I remember, I ordered my boots from her, and all my gear came from K&H Wrestling Gear over the years. Yep.
Nice.
So
And
it
when it
was.
comes to entrance music, what did you how'd you come up with what you had?
Well, again, Kid Rock. My name is Kid, so Kid USA. It just seemed fitting to work that into it. So that was pretty
Sure.
iconic for me too. I got lucky in a lot of ways. I was blessed with a lot of opportunities that I, just grabbed and ran with.
And you talked about some of the in-ring training that Bert Centeno gave you. How about some of the advice and some of the pointers that Bert gave you within that training period? Anything come to mind?
Yes, mouth closed, ears open, all the time. That's everything he used to say to us, and that was a very, very good advice. Over the years, I think people's egos get into this business, unfortunately, and that was pretty much the only downfall I felt with the business was a lot of the egos used to really ruin the locker room, the atmosphere, and everything else. But I just kept my mouth closed, my ears open. Tony Rumble used to guide me a lot with my in-ring work. My out, the promos, everything. So yeah, Bert pretty much just told me to stay humble and always work hard, which I think I did, and always show up, never miss a booking. If you say you're going to be somewhere, you always got to be somewhere, no matter what. And another thing he always used to say was, didn't matter if there was 10 people or 10,000 people, you always give it, you go. I know there's some people that, they tend to hold back when there's only 15 people out there. I can understand by not doing the crazy moves and all that. But, if you're going to work 30% in front of 10 people, you got to work 30% of 10,000. You always want to, if you're wrestling one way, you should wrestle that way all the time.
Yeah,
And so I always made sure I gave it my all every match.
awesome. Eventually, you went on to start your own promotion, the NAWF, the New Age Wrestling Federation, and you
Yeah.
would do shows here and there. I ring announced several of them. Why don't
Mm.
you take us back to that? How did it come about? Doing your own thing, and let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I met Fred Yale, who was a bodybuilding promoter. He was out of Connecticut. So he pretty much was promoting all the bodybuilding shows I was doing. So and the wrestling thing kind of took off. Uh, Everyone was opening schools back then, So he wanted to open one down in New Haven, Connecticut. And I remember I had a meeting with Paul Roma, and he was going to be my partner in this whole thing. But his ego and his prices and all that crazy stuff pretty much pushed him right out the door. And that's when Bert came in. So Bert was head trainer at the time. And then we started a federation, and we actually had about 80 students in about 3 years. So we did really well down there. And all the shows that we did were pretty much all students were on them. So the students would have to sell a certain amount of tickets just to get on the show. And whoever sold the most tickets would win the battle royal, so that would give everyone incentive to sell tickets. So as far as the promoter goes, that's another area that we did really well on, based on how we sold the tickets and advertised. I'm pretty sure, except for maybe one show, we didn't sell out, so that was really fun.
Wow. Do you
Yeah.
have any memories of Fred Yale for people who don't know him?
Yeah, Fred was very helpful to all the young guys. Um, he was old school, so he he had his own way of running things and stuff like that. But he wasn't really too much into the wrestling side of it so much. But as far as the promoting, he had knowledge there, so he really helped with the federation as far as getting the name out there and stuff. So yeah, he's known just to be he's a good guy. Helped all the younger guys. But I think he's retired out in Phoenix now.
Okay. And you still keep in contact with Bert Centeno at all?
Every once in a while on Facebook. He's down in I think Carolinas or something like that.
Yeah.
Somewhere
Yep.
down there. Good for him. So yeah, I'm glad he's doing well.
Absolutely. And Brenda was always so nice, just a big part of
Yes.
the family,
Sure. Yep. Awesome people.
without a doubt. Now, when it comes to venues, traveling, doing different shows all around, what are some of your favorite local venues in the New England area or beyond?
Oh, I used to, well, back in the day, I used to love going up to Green Mountain Wrestling up in Vermont. What was his name? Was it Doug? Curtis Slim Doug's cousin used to run those shows. I think that was his
Okay,
name.
yeah,
It's been so long. But yeah, Green Mountain Wrestling was really fun. All the times up in Maine, I've been up to Maine a million times. Those are really good shows. IEW, IWE, or something like that. Um, Seaver Card shows are always fun. Fall River, those are always some really fun. I used to like going there. And yeah, pretty much they were all fun. I used to love driving around.
yeah. Memories of dynamic Louis Vega.
Oh, Louis Vega. Wow. A lot of traveling, a lot of late nights. Uh, he was very helpful. He was very spontaneous at everything that he did. He was surprised me a lot. He was definitely a go getter.
Yeah. How about Hardcore Joe? There was a wrestler, Hardcore Joe, for a while there.
Oh yeah, yep. Hardcore Joe he was actually on the pizza joint, and he would run all our flyers on the boxes. And then he got into the wrestling world for a little while, and he did good. We ran a lot of successful shows in the Worcester area with him, but he's out in California, I think now.
Okay,
Oh yeah,
nice.
a long time
I
ago.
remember going to the shows after going to the pizza place after some of the shows. I do remember that.
Yeah, we used to run the Boys and Girls Club down in Worcester. That was the
Yep.
fun time. I used to jump off the balconies all the time. Those were the good old days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Jeez.
So when you talk about the Boys and Girls Club, some names that come to mind that were a part of those shows. Sometimes Master Sandy, Delicious Dave Vicious. Any memories of them?
It's funny you just said that. I'm getting goosebumps. I just talked to my fiance a couple weeks ago about Dave and how he passed
Okay.
away. Dave was one of my best friends in the business. He was the biggest, meanest dude. And for whatever reason, him and I just clicked. And we worked a lot up in Maine, and he used to give me 85% of the match and just kill me at the end, when he used to squish everyone else. But he was a great guy. I went to his house many times, lobster fishing with him and everything. So yeah, he was one of my best friends. Good guy.
Oh wow, yeah, he's
Yeah.
definitely missed. Dave Vicious was always had good interactions with him.
Yeah.
Not that I saw him too many times, but I would see him at Bert's shows, and yeah, he was
Yeah.
always a good guy.
He definitely would have been something for sure. He was on his way, actually. He
Yeah,
was really
oh yeah,
close to being in there. Yep.
he had the look, that's for sure.
Yeah, he did.
How about memories of GQ Smooth?
GQ. He's other top five of my favorites. He was one of our students that joined our wrestling school down in Connecticut, and he was from Webster, so he was close by to me. So we used to carpool all the time. And yeah, he did really good. He had a good run on the Indies. He was very, his personality matched no one else's. It was great. Yeah, he kind of fizzled away into I don't know where, but yeah, I hope he's doing well. He's a great
Yeah,
guy.
he was always one of the nicest, and in my opinion, one of the most professional guys around. Best you could ask for.
Yeah, he was, top five students that we've ever trained. That's for sure. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
How about the Latin Fury, Luis Ortiz? Any memories?
Yeah, my favorite match ever. Um, well, we worked a million times, and he was actually wrestling against me in Connecticut at one of my shows where Jim Cornette was on the show, and we opened the show, and that was the match that got me into the WWF at the time, because Cornette seen us work, and he called me back at the end of the match, and I got booked for Monday Night Raw the night after that show. So yeah, Lewis put me on the map on that night. He made me look like $1,000,000.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's one of the best ever, in my opinion.
Without a doubt. I have to agree with that. What would you say is the most challenging part of being a pro wrestler?
Me personally, or in general?
Um, Maybe a little of both. We can go both sides with that.
Well, me personally, ever since I said I was going to be a wrestler since I was 9. Everyone used to tell me I was too short, too small. You're never going to make it. No one really ever supported me. Unfortunately, not even anyone in my family. So everything that I it go in one ear and out the other. So for me, it was always the whole size thing. But once I started wrestling, the size thing kind of got thrown out the window. But for me personally, it was, the size. Um, Today, it's a completely different game. You know, uh, the way I came up and the way it is now is completely two different things. I think now it's even harder to become somebody because, you can't really make a name for yourself out there because as soon as you start, they get the WWE ID thing and everything like that. I think you just you're put into a machine now, and they make you. Back in the day, you used to make yourself, and then you get noticed. That's not how it really goes today. You get put into the machine, and they make you and spit you out. So I think it's harder now to do it because you have to do it their way, no way. Back when I used to do it, back in my era, you had a lot more freedom to become somebody and get noticed.
Right.
So I don't know. I just think the whole system's different now. I
Yeah.
personally like it the way it was back in the 80s and the 90s, as than today.
Yeah, it's a completely different world for sure.
Yeah, but it's weird too. I don't really even you don't really hear of many people from my area anymore. Back in the day, we had so many independent shows going on every weekend. We'd see each other everywhere. It's not like that anymore either. There's like no independent shows around anymore. Not many
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, you got a few feds, and like you said, most of the people from the 2000s, you don't even see them anymore. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's kind of a bummer. You used to travel the circuit. You see like Rick Fuller, Brian Walsh, Tony Roy, Burt. All those guys used to be everywhere. And they made names for themselves, and they got picked up. You don't see that anymore because once a guy becomes anything, they suck him up, and then he doesn't get to go out and do anything. So that's about it.
Yeah. We talked a little bit off camera about the championship belt you have there on
Yes.
display. Why don't you tell the fans what that's all about there? What do we got?
Yeah. So back when Cena won the U.S. title, that spinoff, John's dad, John Cena, got that signed for my son. And he also got my son a signed action figure of John's first figure. So we've had that up for many years. And then the bottom one is just the other spinning belt that we got to match it. But yeah, it's my prized possessions up there. Then I got a little gift. I got my all my gear retired over here a couple years
Nice.
ago. That was pretty cool. And then I got my poster up there when I was champion for Knuckles Nelson at Star Wars.
Oh yes.
So that's about it. I got some good memories from him as well.
Oh, yeah. What are some memories of Knuckles?
Knuckles he was awesome. Knuckles kind of gave me my big push towards the end of my career, when he opened up his Fed, he made me the champion. He let me wrestle all the top guys, and he gave me every opportunity. So, I have a lot of gratitude to him as well because he had a lot of great shows up there. That's actually one of my top favorites is going up to Salisbury Beach all the time. I actually forgot
Yep.
about that. There's been so many. Shoot,
Yeah.
yeah. Knuckles is a
Well,
great guy as well.
that's how it goes. You start, going back into time. You keep remembering things, and
Yeah, for
one thing
sure.
leads to the next.
Yeah, I
Now, when
heard
it comes
Robbie
to the
Ellis just passed away. I apologize. I seen
oh
Robbie
yeah,
just passed. I didn't even. Yeah, it wasn't. That was sad. He was
that was going
another
to be
great
one of my
guy.
other questions. Yeah,
Okay.
Robbie Ellis was a frequent opponent of yours, different promotions over the years.
Oh,
You'd always tie up with him, and he
yeah.
was, just one of the nicest guys. What are your memories of Robbie?
I got sick of him. We used to laugh all the time, man. I remember I was kind of I wrestled him like 27 times in a row, and I didn't know it at first. At first, Bert just kept telling me to wrestle him. But then to come to find out at the end of it, he was actually requesting to wrestle me all the time, which was good because, we had great matches all the time. But yeah, he was something. He was one of a kind. He was another one that helped me out a lot. So he was
He
really
really,
fun.
yeah, he was one of
Yeah.
those guys. He had such a crazy other side to him too, with the art gallery. Nobody would have,
Yeah.
known. It's just he was
Yeah.
involved in so much.
Yeah. He actually had gotten me a lot of opportunities, like wrestling all over the country. He sent me to Canada, California, Florida. He got me a lot of good opportunities over the years,
Wow. All
just by
right.
the people he knew. So yeah, he was a good guy.
Now, when it comes to the training regimen, staying in shape, obviously you're still in shape. You look great. Throughout your career, what was your training regimen? What did you have to go through to keep it?
I would train 5 days a week, and then I'd wrestle on the weekends. I was still competing in the bodybuilding, so I always, was always working out. But luckily, it was just part of my lifestyle, so I enjoyed to do it, and luckily, I'm able to do it today still. So I'm just glad to be healthy.
You talked about one of your championships there for Knuckles Nelson. What are the different championships that you've held over the years?
Oof. Well, I think one of my first big ones was for Tony Rumble, the CWA. It was the CWA, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Century Wrestling. Yep. So I was light heavyweight champion there several times, and then I became top rope promotions champion a couple times. IWE. There's been so many. Luckily, if I've wrestled for him, I usually was the champion at some point or another. So that was kind of cool. I wish I had kept track of all the ones I've won, but yeah, I've had plenty of runs. That was fun.
And do you have all your matches on tape or most of them? Do you keep
I
track of
do.
them?
I have two huge bins in my basement that I need to put on DVDs. But I know Steve Ricard has a bunch of them. I need to get them from him. He always
Yeah.
promised me, so I got to stay on him.
Ricard Enterprises.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure he has all of them.
Yep. Now, how about some memories of the Astro Man?
Astro Man, yeah, Astro Man was another one who made me look like $1 million. He was a big scary guy for a while, but yeah, he took care of me. I used to go to his house for the big cookouts after the matches all the time out, and
So, how about Astro Man, another big part of the New England area for a while, especially Massachusetts? Any memories of Astro Man?
yep, Astro Man was another guy who took care of me in the ring a lot. Um, we always used to do the USA versus Puerto Rico matches all the time. He used to invite us all over to his house for the cookouts afterwards, and he used to promote a lot of events that were very successful. So yeah, he was definitely a great personality and a great guy.
And do
I
you
wonder
ever
whatever
see
happened
him
to
or?
Victor. I think he's in Florida. Last
Oh,
I checked.
okay.
Yeah, but he was doing well. Thank God.
Nice. Yeah, he's somebody I just haven't heard of in a long time, and I was hoping that he was well because I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, last I heard, he was doing very well.
And a guy who not only wrestled, but his wife would do the music. They would also supply the ring on many locations. Mr.
It's
Biggs, the man who
big.
says bigger is better.
Yeah,
What are your
he was
memories?
a really great guy. He's another one who gave me 1,000,001 opportunities. Every time he had a show, he'd book me. If he knew of shows, he'd book me. But yeah, he was great. He's another one who helped me. I had a lot of good people around me at that time, so I was very lucky.
Yeah, Mr. Biggs, of course, ran the IWA and then eventually teamed up with Anthony Rufo. They would run the
Yeah,
IIW.
yeah,
And then he went on to do his own promotion again with the WCWA. Mr. Biggs was always a part of the New England scene, whether it be promoting or wrestling. And just, yeah, like you said, another one of those good guys that we lost too soon, unfortunately.
yeah. We definitely had a lot of good people around us back in the day.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. These locker rooms, I'm sure, don't have the kind of the team effort that we used to have, the team feel. These locker rooms are different then. Even towards the end
Right.
of my career, they weren't like they were back in those days.
Yeah.
Everyone was trying to help one another. That was really cool.
Yeah, it's exactly what it felt like. I mean, you'd see the same guys on same shows, even in different organizations. You'd crisscross, but you'd see a lot of the same guys, and
Yeah,
you became like a family. So
yeah, it was really good.
now, top three WWE matches in your opinion, as a fan, or even in later years, just watching.
Ooh, I gotta go with Hogan and Warrior because that was my two top guys going at it, and then I'd have to go with Shawn and the Undertaker, either one at WrestleMania,
Oh yeah,
and hmm. Shoot, Sean's got a lot of them. I think Sean and Brett was another one that I loved.
nice. Yep.
That was yeah, those are awesome matches.
Can't go wrong with Shawn Michaels for sure.
Yeah,
One of the greats, and he's behind NXT. So we're seeing a lot of new great talent coming out of NXT, and I'm sure Shawn's a big part of that.
yeah, absolutely. He's amazing.
So your son followed in your footsteps for a while there, wrestling all over New England. Why don't
Mm.
you tell us all about your son and how that came about and where his training took place?
Yeah, so again, he started following my footsteps, and he started training with me, and then we sent him down to Ricard for Top Rope Promotions, where he got most of his training from Ryan and Nick, of course. Uh, Another great guy, and yeah, he trained there for a while, and then we were able to wrestle one another for Ricard's promotions a few times, and we tagged a few times. And then once COVID came, he actually hurt it. He had hurt his back right before COVID, and then once COVID came, he kind of fell out of the competition part of it. But he's still a big wrestling fan. But yeah, he did really well for a short period of time. If he had stuck with it, I really think he could have done things. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not too late, but I think if he was to apply himself, he'd be really good.
sure. Yeah, never say never.
Yep.
So a promotion that you maybe have never worked for whatever reason, schedules didn't align, but you were like, man, I wish I had worked for them.
Oh, that would have been who's that guy? He used to what was his name? Mike. He used to walk around with the satchel all the time. He owned the autograph store down in Connecticut. He used to bring in all the big names. Ah, man. He
Not
was
too
down in
sure.
maybe Danbury, Connecticut. His name was Mike. But he used to have
Okay.
huge shows all the time. I was on a couple of them, but
Mike
again,
O'Brien?
like, what's that? Michael
Mike
Bryan.
O'Brien?
Yeah. Those are the shows I
Northeast
used
Wrestling.
to try to get on. Yep. But
Okay.
schedules, I was always with Ricard, so my schedules always used to conflict. But there was a lot of guys down there I wish I got to work with out of New Jersey, New York that I didn't really get to work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be one of them because he used to draw a lot of people.
Yeah, he always had great crowds and really ran a professional show for sure.
Yep. So that'd probably be the one.
All right. What are your memories of NWA New England and working there?
Oh man, those are actually the best times. You had Jason Rumble, Bo Douglas, Slick Wagner Brown, Lewis. Like that was our whole clique. It was about 10 of us. We all used to work one another all around, and I think that was probably I think that was one of the hottest times in New England independent wrestling was when that was going on, because all those guys were top notch workers. Then you had Eric Sprazier, Knuckles Nelson, all those guys were all involved in that. So that was a really good time. And Bert. So yeah, that was the best. I learned the most and had my best matches with all those guys.
Sure.
For
And
sure.
whether it be, during your career or even post retirement, who would you say, in your opinion, is the number one New England talent to come out of New England?
Mm. Well, man, that's a tough question. There's been a lot.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, got Carmelo. He's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's local. Yeah, I think he'd top it. Aaron Stevens, he was
Right.
another one that was really good. But yeah, I think Carmelo right now.
I
That'd
feel
be
like
my
with Carmelo, we've kind of just seen the beginning. There's still,
yeah.
sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I think he's one of the ones that's being held back right now for sure because he's amazing. So and to say he's local is pretty cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the names you brought up earlier, what are your memories of Dangerous Donnie Rotten?
That was my partner in crime. I came up with him. He was unfortunately my practice dummy for many years. He's another one I used to wrestle 30 to 50 times in a row. Poor kid did more jobs for me than anyone else. But yeah, he, he's definitely one in a million, man. He gave it a all gas, no brakes all the time. He did some crazy stuff. But he was a lot of fun. A lot of great matches with him.
Another guy, just one of the nicest guys.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
How about the Widowmaker? You said, you mentioned him earlier. Of
Yeah.
course, for the fans that don't know Widowmaker by that name, he was Eric Bart, he was Eric Storm, he was Eric Shred. What are your memories of him?
He's another one that came up with our school. We trained together a lot. We traveled together a lot. When I had my own school, he used to help us train there. So he was another solid guy, solid worker as well. So just another good person around us.
Now, how about for promoters? In the way of promoters, who was your favorite promoter to work for if you had to choose one?
Mm. Tony Rumble.
Boston Bad
And
Boy.
yeah, I think Tony Rumble, Steve Ricard. Steve Ricard is another one who gave me a lot of great opportunities. Um, yeah, he was really good. I didn't really have many I didn't like. Rocky Raymond. He gave me some opportunities as well. Believe it or not, he's a blast from the past.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, that's about it.
Now, advice. When it comes to advice, what advice do you have for somebody who's maybe just looking to get in the business now?
Oof, that's tough. Again, ears open, mouth closed, and I think you should look the part. In my opinion, my personal opinion, when I see guys that don't spend a minute in the gym, don't put any effort into their gear, or the way they look. I think you should really look the part and be professional. And I think that's how you stand out from everybody else, by actually looking the part, because not many people look the part anymore. You know,
Sure.
they're wearing sneakers and sweatpants and all that stuff. I mean, to each their own. I get certain gimmicks have that, but to me, I was always brought up, if you didn't have wrestling boots, you couldn't even get in the ring. Clearly that's different now, but it's all about the look. I feel if you're going to be a pro
Yeah.
wrestler, you should look like one.
And what's your favorite era of pro wrestling? Whether it be being in the business or even just as a fan, was it the big boom of the '80s? Was it the '90s with the new generation? Was it the Attitude Era, or Ruthless Aggression Era, or present day?
Oh, I'd say the '90s, late '90s for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that was
that.
a good
That's
time.
definitely. Yep, those are all the best matches, I feel.
How about injuries? When it comes to injuries, what injuries have you had over the years?
Oh, unfortunately, I had a lot of them when I was starting in my career. When I was 21, I tore my quad. So that put me out for about a year. And over the years, I've torn both of my pecs. I've torn both of my biceps. Obviously, the concussions. Um, I dislocated my jaw, couple of rotator cuffs, and that's about it. Thank God, no broken bones, but a lot of tearing of the muscles.
Right. Well, it's a dangerous sport. You just never know. You know.
Yeah, it really is. And you get hurt doing the most, simplest things. I've been through tables and backflips and everything. I've landed fine, but then I get, slammed the wrong way and I tear something.
Right.
It's awful.
You mentioned Freight Train Dan earlier. Any memories of Dan?
Yep, he was another great guy. He used to help me with my school. We tag team for a while. We were, what was it, Power Hungry? That's what it was. Steve Rikai gave us that lovely gimmick for a while. So we tagged, and we used to travel a lot in the Mass Appeal Mobile back and forth to Maine. So Dan was always fun to be with. Never a dull
And
moment.
exactly. And a part two question here, a little one too. How important is the role of a referee in a pro wrestling match? And the other side of that, who is your favorite referee over the years to work with personally?
I think the role of a referee is very important, because he's pretty much coordinating the whole thing in life. And if he's helping guys remember spots, being in the right positions all the time. So I think that's very important. And I have to be biased on this one because he went to my wrestling school, but Tony Stevens, I think he's one
Oh,
of the
yeah.
best refs to do it. He's into every match, every second, and he hasn't changed from day one. He's one of the nicest kids I've ever met. So he'd get my vote.
Yeah, he puts all the passion in it for sure.
Yeah, he does. He definitely, he's one of, when I tell you to look the pot and be the pot, as far as referees go, I feel it's him. And I really feel the only thing that's held him back, unfortunately, is his height. Because he's like 6'2", 6'3", so he's a giant next to everybody. But
Sure.
other than that, man, he's it for sure.
How about the managerial role? Who are some of your favorite managers on the independent scene, and then maybe your favorite manager from television over the years?
Well, as far as the independents go, John Rodeo, what was his name? Johnny
Yep.
Rodeo back in the day. He used to know the shit out of me back then, so he was doing his job. He was a good heel manager. Um, yeah, so I enjoy him. And as far as like, the big ones, I think Bobby the Brain Heenan and Jimmy the Mouse to the South. They're my top two guys.
Oh, yeah. New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. You were inducted
Yeah.
2019. Why don't you go back to that night? Some of your memories from that.
Yeah, that was really cool. My son got to be there with me. Donnie, was able to induct me and all that, and I was able to be around all the other inductees and past inductees. So that was a really cool night. I'm glad I was able to be part of that.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody kind of come together. And like you said,
Yes.
you make friends over the years with a lot of these guys, and then you could go years without seeing them. But then when you see them again, it's like you pick up right where you left off.
Yeah, and it's so weird because not that you forget about them, but there's faces that you completely forget about. But then as soon as you hear about them again, it's like you said, you can pick a conversation up with them. There's so many
Yep.
guys out there that I'm friends with that I consider friends that I probably forgot about.
Right.
Not on purpose, but you meet so many people.
Exactly. Any memories of referee Dave Torres, Worcester's own Dave Torres?
Yeah, yeah, he was he was around for a long time with Bert and stuff. He was pretty good too. I don't know, he just kind of fizzled out of the business, but yeah, when he was in it, he was really good. He's definitely a good one. I forgot, see another guy I forgot about.
Yep.
That's funny.
Now, when it comes to different styles in pro wrestling, how do you, as a wrestler, adjust to the different styles? Whether you're wrestling somebody your size, whether you're wrestling a giant, you know,
Hmm.
everybody's got a different style. So, how do you adjust?
Yeah, well, see, I actually used to like wrestle. I mean, a lot of guys were bigger than me, but I used to wrestle the bigger guys because I used to like the David and Goliath stuff. So as long as the guy was willing to tell a good story during the match with me, that's where you should do my good work because I was usually the smaller guy, but I was able to keep up like strength wise and stuff like that, so we could make an interesting story with the big guy. But when I wrestle someone more or less my size, like a Jason Rumble or a Luis Ortiz, the skies were the limits then because we could literally do mat work, high flying, we could do anything, and that's where I had most of my best matches with guys that I could go with.
Sure. And
So,
when it comes to giants of the ring, Big Rick Fuller, you mentioned him earlier,
oh
the
god
the
damn,
king of the Fuller effect.
I hated wrestling him, man. When I knew I was wrestling him, I dreaded it. I dreaded it. That
Did you
damn
ever
chop.
receive the chop? You did.
I did, but yeah, it's funny because there's a quick Rick Fuller story. I really
Yeah.
think he had a soft spot for me because it was like my third match, and I was in Chelsea, Mass, and it was me and Steve Morabiti, Steve Morabiti. Anyway, Steve Morabiti, I think it was. We were doing a TV squash match against Matt Bloom and Rick Fuller. And again, it's my third match. I know it's a work, so I'm not afraid to wrestle with these two huge guys. And they know I'm green. They know I'm Bert's guy, so they were taking care of me. But we were in a smaller ring. And like I told you, I've never been in a ring before. So this is only my third time in a ring, period. I don't know how to run the ropes or anything. He sends me in, and he calls a spinning heel kick. And I didn't know what that meant. So I just came off the ropes a million miles an hour, and he hit me. And I mean, I went up, and my feet were up here, and I came crashing down, and he's the one that dislocated my jaw that day, and I got stitches and knocked out. And I left on a stretcher that day. And I think from that point forward, he had a soft spot for me because every time I used to wrestle him, I'd have to take a chop, but it'd be only one, two if I flinched. But usually, if I just gave him the one, he would take it and leave me alone. So for
Right.
that, I'm grateful.
One half of the Millennium Killers, Anthony Rufo, the late great Anthony Rufo, of course, the promoter of UCW and IIW. Memories of
Yes.
Anthony.
Yeah, we had some really good matches back in the day, some tag team matches. Those are very early on. It was mainly me and Donnie Rotten. We were partners against those guys a lot. So yeah, that was always fun wrestling him because, like again, I used to like wrestling the bigger guys. So it was fun. He was a
How
good
about
guy.
road trips? Funny stories. Anything come to mind over the years? You must have had some
Oh yeah,
interesting experiences.
oh yeah. We had a lot of the Mass Appeal Mobile. I bought a camper, and it was like a 24-foot, and we used to have like 12 students that would travel up and down the East Coast with there. So we had a lot of campers stories that was fun. We used to be able to park the camper outside the locker room and set up our playstations, especially up in Maine. So we got to spend a lot of time out there. We used to eat dinner, take our showers and everything. So it was fun traveling in the camper a lot, for
Nice.
sure.
Now, how about a dream match? When it comes to a dream match, a match that maybe, involving yourself, obviously,
Mm.
something you never got that opponent, or maybe even fast forward somebody from today's scene that you'd like to wrestle.
Oh man, it'd be a lot. I think I'd have a really good match with the Miz for
Okay,
whatever
yeah,
reason. I always wanted to work with the Miz because he's another one. He can do pretty much a little bit of everything, but he doesn't
right.
do it all. So that's someone I think I'd have a good match with.
And memories of Slick Wagner Brown.
Yeah, he was another one I had amazing matches with. He was really good. Um, we did a lot of matches in the CWA. So he was another one I wrestled probably 30, 40 times. So he was very good. And he had a really good independent run as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but when it comes to creating a Mount Rushmore, it could be personal favorites, could be, most influential in the business or just the biggest stars. So you can look at it any way you'd like, but what is your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling?
What is it, three or four?
Four.
There's four, huh?
Yep.
I'm just going to go. It'd be Hogan, Warrior, Shawn. And at this point, I'd say Roman.
Awesome. All right.
That's
Yeah.
that's my own personal ones.
And how can fans follow you? Do you have a website or are you on social media at all?
I'm just on social media. Uh, Jay Gillette, Facebook. That's about it.
Awesome.
I'm
And what
keeping a
have you
little
kind of done?
profile.
Right, exactly. And you laid low, obviously retired from in-ring competition. What have
Yes.
you kind of done with life after that?
Well, I'm continuing to work it out. I work out at my sister's gym, and I work out at my old gym in Oxford there, North End Muscle there. And I just been doing the landscaping, getting some other businesses going. Probably gonna get my CDL to drive. And I'm in talks with actually Powerhouse Wrestling. Chris Sotero called me up last month trying to. So I might do a match here in Sturbridge in April. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I can still go as long as the proper training was involved. I
Yep.
never really had a real retirement match, so I might do that just to call it officially over.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. Great to hear.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your legacy, how do you want to be remembered fast forward years from now?
Just someone who entertained and gave their all. Every match I did, I gave it. Tony Atlas, and Knuckles Nelson both gave me props that I'll remember forever. Tony back in the day used to get me a lot of bookings, and he used to tell me that he loved me because when the bell rang, I was a pit bull until the bell rang again. So pretty much all gas, no brakes. And then throughout my career, obviously I stole bits and pieces from my people I looked up to. But I remember Knuckles Nelson gave a speech in the locker room one night, and he said, because it was guys that were going out trying to be Stone Cold and going out trying to be Shawn Michaels, and he said, the only person in this locker room who can actually say that they're themselves and blah blah blah, and he said that was me. So I like to be known for someone who out there. I was me. I wasn't trying to be Shawn or Ultimate Warrior. I went out there and I presented the best thing of myself. So, but that included a bit from here, there, and it made me who I am. So that's about it. I want to know someone who gave it their all,
Absolutely.
and I made it. You know what I'm saying? Like I know this is cliche, everyone says it, but I was the one who said that everyone said they wouldn't make it, and I'm proud to say at the end of it, I made it to the WWF. I got to wrestle in my hometown for the WWF, and I got a victory in the WWF. So I didn't get to WrestleMania. I didn't get a belt, but I got close enough.
And which arena was that you wrestled for World Wrestling Federation?
So I wrestled at the Worcester Centrum twice. The first time was against Doug Danger out of New York. It was a dark match, and that's the one I got put over in. And then I wrestled Bull Buchanan at the Worcester Centrum, and then I wrestled the Big Boss Man at the Providence Civic Center, and then I wrestled Kane. I think it was at Mohegan back in
Yep.
the day. Yeah, so that was it. So I had a little run. It was fun.
I was there for the Big Boss Man match. What was it like working with Boss Man?
Scary. I was obviously scared to death, and I remember I went up to him and I was like, "So what are we gonna do tonight?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it. I'll call all in the ring." And I was just like, "Huh?" And again, I'm new. I'm only like 6 months into the business. So I remember I called Bert real quick. I was like, "Bert, this guy ain't calling anything." He said, "Just shut up and listen." And then, another example, mouth closed, ears open, and he called the whole match, out there, and I heard it loud and clear, but on TV you didn't see a thing, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And I busted open his lip. That was my big high spot. I busted his lip and I got a 2 count on him. So
Nice.
that's about the extent of it.
Right. And you
So
kind of
that
had the David Goliath encounter with Kane, the Big Red Machine. What was
Yeah.
that like working with Kane?
Oh, it was awesome, man. It was a 2-on-1, and literally the bell rang, and he just choke slammed both of us and pinned us. It was very
Nice.
simple, but that was really cool. Knocked the wind out of me. I remember that. I got pretty high.
And didn't you have a segment with Kane in the NWA New England at one point or somewhere around here?
Yes. Yep. I did. It was a run-in.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that might have been for Michael Bryan, to be honest, or something.
Okay.
Because I remember I wasn't able to wrestle for him, but I did a run-in.
Gotcha. I do remember that.
Yeah, that was another fun time. Yeah, I had a
Awesome.
lot of good times with the names. I was lucky to wrestle a lot of names towards the end of my career as well. So
Yeah.
that was cool. I
And if you
pinned
could pick
Tony
one
Atlas.
moment. Oh, sorry. Go right ahead.
Oh, I was saying another big moment is when Tony Atlas put me over in Pennsylvania in front of like 1,000 people. So that was really cool. And
And
then
who were
tag
some of the
teaming
other
with
names that
Duggan.
you worked with? Hacksaw?
Hacksaw Jim Duggan, we tagged a lot. I wrestled Greg Valentine, Brutus Beefcake, Coco Beware. So Jerry Lynn was the one of my favorites. So that was really cool. Yeah, I get to wrestle a lot of good guys.
And were a lot of these guys giving?
Yeah, they put me over, most of them.
Excellent.
I remember Chris Daniels. What's his name? The Angel there.
Yeah, the Fallen Angel.
Yeah. We had a really good match in California at one point. He put me over there too. So yeah, I had a lot of good matches.
Awesome. Well, Jay, thank you so much for taking the time today. For the Kidd USA Jay Jaillet, for Joseph Bruen, this is the All Access Entertainment Podcast, and we will see you guys at the matches. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks, Joe.